Good morning, world. I've missed you. How are you doing? Well, I don't know about you, but I had a really good Memorial Day weekend. The only thing wrong with my weekend is I thought, dang it, I didn't get to talk to enough serial entrepreneurs. It was just thought so many of you had. Well, lucky you, today we're joined by Roy Coughlan. I met him when I was on his podcast, and he was gracious enough because we started talking about something that made my head explode, and we get to talk about it today. Please say hello from, there we go. Hello from your bed, from your car, wherever you are. It's Roy Coughlan, everybody. Roy, good morning.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for having me on the show.
Are you kidding me? I'm very grateful that you're here. All right, so a serial entrepreneur, I just asked you before we went on, how do you describe yourself to people at a cocktail party? Tell me about, what was your answer? It was a good one.
Basically, I tell people I'm a serial entrepreneur because the reality is, since a young age, I think 9, I started going around washing cars, delivering, leaflets. Then at 11, I started doing a newspaper round, bought a lawnmower, cut grass, and just kind of was always doing different things. And then later on in life, loads of different jobs. I know, so that's why I say better to say a serial entrepreneur than a certain profession, because it always changes.
Me too. I had a business when I was 12. I was selling, I sold flavored toothpicks, Roy. It was a fad in America where there were cinnamon flavored toothpicks and they were expensive and not every kid wanted them. And I figured out how to make them. You and I are linked to the lawnmower job. Well, all right. So podcast, you are a serial podcaster. Yet you told me something that I never would have expected in a million years last time we were together, which was that you started out as a shy person and in fact were shy and introverted really recently. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I suppose going back to an earlier age when I was going to shops with my friends, I was too shy to go into the shop. I'd get my friend the money and tell him what I want. And I remember in school being terrified if I had to speak. The way they go around the class getting people to read, stand up. My brain would freeze about 5 people before me, just panicking. And I know I'd be stuttering and everything. I just did not like it. When I got to 18, I was actually a good boy. I didn't start drinking at 15 or something like that. In Ireland, we're allowed to drink at 18, so I waited till I was 18. But I wouldn't go up to the bar. I used to give my friend the money to get to call around when it was my turn.
Right.
Then I started after college working, was doing very well in the construction industry and running big jobs. But when it was time for the weekly meetings and you're talking about having builders, architects, clients, we would have done jobs for Johnson & Johnson, big clients. And I sounded like Mr. Bean basically. My voice was, and I hated it. It was the worst part of the week. I was extremely competent in my job, very good at negotiation. One-on-one with people, no problem. But in a group setting, I just, knees buckled.
Well, among other things, you must have known how inconvenient that was for you.
Absolutely.
Right? This is really hindering your life.
I mean, I know I know that the first thing people should do is become competent speakers, because the wrong people get promoted in jobs. It's like somebody that can come across as if they're confident. It doesn't mean that they have the other skill sets, and yet they will get promoted because they look better for the company. And people just assume you're better because you're confident.
And were you aware of this at age 14 and 15 and 16?
I just knew I was shy. I mean, I just knew that I wasn't comfortable. All the time. I didn't try to change it. I kind of just accepted this is how I feel. And I know in my generation, so my mom was shy. My great-grandmother, who I was lucky enough to be alive till I was 11 or 12 when she passed away, but I know that from the age, she was 86, so from the age of 40 to 86, she left the house twice. She was so shy. So, and there's a lot of people, so
wow.
There's a lot, so I don't know, was it something that was kind of instilled into me, that there was a big shyness in the family?
Well, I'm just wondering, it's at some point you understood that there were consequences of being shy. So you just articulated confident people tend to do better even if they don't deserve it, or people that appear confident. I was just wondering when you became aware of that fact.
Well, I was kind of conscious of it all the time, but I suppose making the shift, when I made the shift, I was at an event with Mind Valley. It was basically, the team was called "What's Your Quest?" And at the time, I had gone through a big kind of turmoil in my life. I was doing very well, real estate and everything, and with the crash, lost everything. I had a lot of houses. I lost all my houses. I lost my own house and my personal belongings and everything, and went through a kind of transition with that, dealing with courts, dealing with banks, and realized there was a load of corruption going. There's something wrong here, because I had all my eggs. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I was saying, there's something going on here. And when I went to this event, What's Your Quest? It was like, I don't want other people to go through what I've done, because I could see the corruption. And I kind of grew up in a hard neighborhood, so I'd say I'm tough skin. I done martial arts from 16 years of age, but a lot of people throw in the towel, because when things like that happen, and when you know that it's orchestrated. So I was kind of, make my quest is, I want to kind of expose a lot of this corruption. And when I was there was two amazing speakers, and it was like, it just clicked. I need to be a good speaker if I'm going to try and get my message out.
Ah,
So when I came back, I said, I need to join Toastmasters. And I'll tell you how shy I was. I came back, I couldn't go to Toastmasters on my own. I had to get my friend to come with me. Great. I loved it. He said, great, but I don't have time for it. I was too shy to go back on my own.
oh dear.
Yeah. So then a new club opened. There was a new club opening, and I said, "This is great, because everybody is going to be new." And so I just decided, I'm going. When I was there, they got me to sign up. I said, "Grand." Then they said, "Oh, will you do a speech next week?" I just assumed that was normal, so I agreed to it. And I did a speech, and it was kind of like, I kind of, coerced into it. And it's kind of funny story, because during the speech I was rehearsing it. I was trying to
Right.
rehearse it in the car. It's called your icebreaker, if you're familiar with Toastmasters. So it's
Mm.
basically just talking about yourself, which
Right.
should be easy. And I wrote my notes. I was practicing, and what happened is, a new club is formed by existing Toastmasters, and they'd done it in a university. So you
Mm.
had maybe 10 existing Toastmasters and maybe 10 new people that had joined up. So during my speech, I'm kind of, because I'm Irish, humor kicked in, and I done a bit of funny things, and it went down well. But I panicked halfway through, because you're practicing away in your car, you're
Yeah.
practicing away. But when you're actually standing on stage and you see all the eyes looking at you, I just froze. So I froze what I thought was 2 minutes, but later it wasn't that long. But so people in Toastmasters then give you an evaluation,
Right.
and because it's a new club, they got everybody to have a piece of paper with different things. And all of the existing Toastmasters were giving me great compliments and all the good things I'd done, and all the new people, where was the entertainment? They were just
Oh,
abusing me.
the
So I had
rookies were
half that was
panning
terrible
you.
comments, and the other half which were brilliant. But I didn't phase me. I just kind of kept going, and I ended up using that, because I kept everything I'd done in Toastmasters. I've a folder here. I even have still the notes, and I used that for a humorous speech competition a few years later, about 2 years later, and I got into the final of 5 countries in the humorous speech competition.
Yeah. Okay. Right. First of all, that's amazing, and two, it's funny that you were you were you were, you were speaking your first meeting, but also I'm picturing somebody listening to this who is as shy as you were, saying like, this sounds impossible. It doesn't sound possible that a guy goes and speaks and then gets panned by 50% of the people and then ends up in a contest and does well. What was the secret? Like, what? It's almost like you
It was,
flipped a
I
switch.
think, it was from that event I made it kind of bigger than me. That the mission was bigger than me. So the fair kind of, it wasn't that I wasn't a fairer every time I've done a speech, but it was, I constantly would go on stage. If somebody didn't turn up, I'd say, I'll do a speech. If
Ah,
I'll be an evaluator. Like, I waited, like, for those that don't know about Toastmaster, there's an evaluator for every speech. So I waited 6 months before I'd done an evaluation because I was so embarrassed about doing that. But once I'd done it, I
Right?
just kept doing it. And there was times I could take three roles. I like if there was people for Toastmaster, which is actually controlling the meeting, I would do that straight away because I said I've got 2 hours on stage. And I just kept taking every role. So then I joined the other club, the club that I was afraid of.
Yeah.
I joined that as well. Then I founded a club. So I created the International Entrepreneurs. I created my own club. And then later I became a coach for a club and I got them. So I got the DTM it should have been 3 years, but they said because I got the other club to, I suppose, distinguished. In other words, that they were in trouble and I rescued them. So I done it in 6 months, but they said, no, you have to do it for a year. So it took me 3.5 years to get DTM, which is kind of rare because a lot of people take a lot longer and not everybody.
For our listeners, DTM is, I think, Distinguished Toastmasters. What is that? It's a big honor.
Yeah, no, it is. I was delighted. I mean, I pushed myself to get it, and I was delighted that I actually achieved that.
All right, I am going to ask you how to turn your experience into advice, but I want to go back in time because you had something interesting to say about school kids and yourself in school as a very shy kid. Do you remember talking to me about having to read out loud?
Yeah, well, I mean, like that was always a case that going around the class reading out. And
Yeah.
I used to be terrified. And there was one teacher, my history teacher, and it was like I was always doing homework. I come back from school, I do my homework. I did put in the time, so I never got any hassle from my parents. But it just went in one ear and out the other. I don't know, was it because of fear? And he'd just scream at you. And I remember one time I was 13 and I came last in the class in an exam, and he said, my grandmother would do better and she's dead 10 years. And like afterwards I was laughing. Yeah, but yeah, and like maybe something like that was something that caused it. I don't know. But 2 years later, changed the teacher in history, and I started getting 100% the whole time, and I got an A in the state exam. So and what I've noticed is with a load of my guests, the amount of people that have been abused by teachers is unreal. Everybody has had problems with teachers, and I don't know, has it got a huge effect on people with their public speaking because they belittle them in front of the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, to connect, I'm trying to connect all the dots. When you say public speaking, you're not necessarily talking about winning Toastmasters contest. You're talking about ordering around at the pub. It's everything.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's for example, with my children, I remember that I wanted to kind of not have them the same problems. So my daughter, my eldest daughter, now she's a teacher now in Abu Dhabi, and I remember if she wanted something in the shop, I said, you go up and get it. And she'd be, no. And without her even realizing it, I was making her confident, because a lot of the times the parents take over and they're doing all the things, and then they're wondering why their child is shy. So, doing simple things like that. The same with my son, my youngest child, he's 8. I started teaching him magic because I said, without him even realizing it, he's becoming a showman, which in turn, you're not shy because you're in front of people showing off your magic.
What? You don't know this. I'm a magician. I'm deep into magic. Are you a magician?
Well, I had to be to teach him.
Okay, good enough.
And the funny thing is, I done some Toastmasters speeches with magic. The first time I done it, everything worked perfect, and they were all in awe. The next time, every single trick I done didn't work. I was doing the rope. One trick worked, and they were all going, "Wow!" The very last trick worked. The rest they bombed. And after that, then I learned the different tricks from my son, and a lot of it was about the wording. It's not just showing the trick.
Yeah.
You can create a story, and to let the child know, the better the story, the better the magic.
Well, I did take us on a detour, and I'm sorry. You said the word magic, and I think my brain turned off, and I went off. But, it's interesting thinking about magic as a shy person or a public speaker, because there's two things happening with magic. You have to accomplish some sort of linear process with your hands. A has to happen, and then B, and not the other way around, and then C, and you can't mix those up. But then also, you can't stand there silently. So then now a different part of your brain has to keep talking, and that's not easy. But you're teaching
Yeah.
your kid there? I think
Well, I
well
think
done.
it, no, I don't know. I think you're not as shy. Like the problem with me is I didn't practice as much because I wasn't doing that much magic. I mean, I've realized the time that all the tricks didn't work as
Right?
planned. I mean, I kind of was winging it. I know I'd learned something and then try it two or three times. Then I thought I knew it. That's not how magic works. You need to try something a lot, as you probably know. You need to do it a lot of times to be confident in it.
This is why I'm not any good at magic. All right, we're going back to that person who was so horrible to you that compared you to their dead grandmother, that teacher. What advice would you give that person? Because let's and the advice is not going to be you're an idiot and abusive. The advice is when you have shy people in your class, you don't understand them. Let me teach you how to act with them. What would you tell them?
I think it's I suppose that it's the parent should tell, because the child. So if I was the parent going back, I go, do you realize that by insulting a child in front of his friends, he's going to get bullied? There's going to be fun made of him. Do you actually think that that's going to help that child to become, better at that subject?
Yeah. Well, yeah, making the child feel like you care and have their back as opposed to pushing them out onto the edge of the diving board and pushing them. When my wife is very shy, she wasn't like your great grandmother where she didn't leave the house, but she's less so now, but really shy, really introverted. We were at this massive family dinner. Wasn't our family, and there was this guy named Uncle John. He was a 70 and bigger than life and loud and stories and super magnetic, and everyone loves Uncle John. And at some point during this loud party it was mostly family, they all knew each other, he said to my shy wife, who had up to that moment been silent, you should talk more. Why don't you talk? You should talk. And I'll bet you can picture what she did, how that felt. She felt
That's
like,
the worst thing that can
don't put me
happen.
on the spot. This is now I can't talk. I was already paralyzed. Now I'm really paralyzed.
It's putting the spotlight on top of you, and it's the last thing that you want when you're shy.
Do you have any remnants of being shy, or do you feel like that's 100% gone?
Like what's strange, and I've talked to a few people, is I did martial arts from 16 because as I mentioned, I used to do the newspapers, and I used to get bullied a lot. Like there was times guys came up and they'd burn the newspapers, and I got bullied by about 7 guys. They'd come over and they just beat you up and everything. And a guy came up one day, and yeah, and he came up and he said, "Look, come up here. We do kung fu." And I just went and started doing kung fu, and I loved it. And I actually was very good at it. And then you start teaching the class. So you start teaching when you start getting up in the grades. And I didn't mind that. And shouting, you're going, she's shouting out loud.
Right.
Was I shy for that? No. We were even on television. Was I shy? No. We were doing a demonstration in a big hall. Was I shy? No. So it's like how you can go from one extreme. You think that, I'm shy, but was I
Right.
really shy? It was kind of selective shyness, I suppose.
It's so this whole shy thing is so fascinating. I think I told you last time, but I didn't tell you at this recording. I'm not. I'm pretty extroverted and pretty not shy, although I have elements of both. My 3 kids, super introverted and very shy, and my wife, super introverted and very shy. So I feel like all of people like you are a mystery. Like I'm so interested in you. I love you. I can't figure you out. And I think there's a lot of people like me and that idiot teacher you had who are not trying to be awful, but we just are idiots. We just don't know. What what advice would you give people in like a work setting if you have somebody who's quiet? And I mean, you and I agree that person could be the smartest person in the room. They could be the leader, the eventual leader of the company, but they're silent. What are we gonna? How are we gonna treat them? And what advice would you give them?
I think it's important for like the employer to have interactive workshops because what tends to happen is the guys that are extroverts do all the talking and the people that are quiet might have 10 times better ideas, but they're shy. To just kind of say, okay, what's your idea? And just get or even to get them to write it down, and then you judge it a bit more. I would encourage kind of having company Toastmasters or something similar, where because if there's a group of people that are shy, you kind of go up together. Because I know from just doing the Toastmasters, there was so many people, they were like terrified, shaking, and it is so beautiful to watch somebody that goes. It's like the caterpillar to the butterfly, that they go from one extreme to the other. And like there was even I've been asked, like I was a mentor to about 10 people. Loads of people asked me to be their mentor, and so I was helping them how to do it. And it's just beautiful. And I would encourage everybody to like do Toastmasters. There's different groups around, like there's like unfortunately life there's different personalities. So for some people they can go into a group and it's a clique. I mightn't suit you. Maybe try different things. I know there's alternative groups as well, so it
Right.
doesn't necessarily have to be Toastmasters. But even maybe try Meetup. Just the main thing is just get out of your skin, or even just take up art or something where you're kind of connecting with people. And when you get a hobby that you're passionate about, without even realizing it, you start talking and enjoying it. And
Mm.
I think once you come out of it, you look back and go, you don't go backwards. You like most people that I've seen that have come out of the shyness, they never kind of go back into it.
Yeah. What? Okay, so you had two brilliant things in there. One of them is if you're leading the meeting as an employer or a whatever, some sort of leader, you better make room for the introverts. And I think, I'm a professional speaker and I lead groups. So often I literally tell the introverts or the extroverts to shut your pie hole. And I think it's so funny, but then I'm like, no, you don't get it. You need to be quiet. But having the leader make room for those more quiet people is important. But the other thing too is, dude, you wanted this. You took it upon yourself. You went to extraordinary lengths.
No, it was kind of I made a decision, and that's I suppose like that's something that shy people I think don't actually probably do. Maybe I should have done that at an earlier age and say I want to change and just totally go about doing it. Because the moment I said it, I just went all in and
Yeah.
changed, and then I done all the different podcasts, done loads of live shows and everything, and it went from one extreme to the other.
Are you like a type A personality, like this super driven? When you put your mind to it, ooh, you go get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, dude, to me, you're just you're heroic just because you described this absolute disability and you said, all right, I'm not doing that anymore. And then you fixed it like in a remarkably short time. Wow.
And like what I'll say to people is like because the fact that I wouldn't go into a shop or go up to a bar, so I know what it's like. Even in like I tell you, if you're going to like say a chipper or some restaurant where you're ordering, like I panic would kick in. I like just even simple things like that to order food in a takeaway. Like so, I understand how traumatic it can be, but just make a decision. Okay, I'm not going to be that person anymore, and just what do I need to do? Like I started reading TEDx books, looks at TEDx talks, and just constantly, and then try to get into scenarios where you actually get into talk. You don't have to go out and talk to 500 people, but like
Right.
if if you get a bit uncomfortable with tree, just start getting into trees and spread it out a bit. Just push your barriers the whole time, and eventually you'll be a different person.
You mentioned coaching and mentoring people in Toastmasters. Do you do that for because what your advice is right now is so easy and unintimidating, and you're so good at it. Do people who are shy come up to you and say, "Please, Roy, walk me through this. I don't get it."
Well, in the Toastmasters, they were asking me, like
Yeah.
a lot of people, or they'd ask me to be their evaluator because I would see different things when people were speaking. Because sometimes when someone is an evaluator, they go, "Oh, your introduction was this," and they go through the structure of the speech.
Right.
Whereas I'm looking at everything, I'm
Yeah.
going, "Your feet were twisting in this way, you were tugging your shirt, you're doing this, you're doing that," and then you're like elongating an and instead of a pause. So
Right.
I'd spot all these different things, and people kind of like that. So then they'd ask me to be their evaluator as well.
Yeah.
And I think by actually doing that, I became better and understanding it better, because when you're looking at other speakers, you see what's good and you can incorporate it into your own. But also, when you see errors they're making, you make sure you don't make that error. So instead of just going there speaking, try to give as much, because some people that go to Toastmasters, it's like BNI. Some people go to BNI, Business Network Group, and they're just, their hand is out, they're looking for work, give me referral, they don't think about the people around the table. Whereas if you go in with the mindset, I want to help everybody as much as I can, you're actually helping yourself more than anybody.
That's advice I've given to other people. You and I are spirit animals, Roy. We are linked. Yeah, Toastmaster, I feel like I have a love-hate relationship with Toastmasters. As I see people moving from Toastmasters into the realm of professional speaking, and there's a flavor. They come with a flavor. I could spot them a mile away and say, Toastmasters. And it's not great.
No. And I get what you're saying, because they have, flick the hair at a certain time, do this at a certain time. Everything is orchestrated. Whereas I'm different. I kind of speak from the heart. I can't do a speech verbatim. And unfortunately, with the judges' criteria, when you're doing competitions, you have to kind of tick all the boxes. So what I did when I got into the final, I looked at the judging criteria and make sure I incorporated everything in that. But at the same time, I don't think that's the best way to do a speech. And I've looked at lots of people that have won competitions, and I said that wasn't the best speech. The person that gave a beautiful message that people could feel, to me, was the better speech.
Yeah, again, you and I are linked. I said I have a love-hate relationship with it. So I don't love that Toastmaster style that they kind of manufacture. But hearing your story about how you use Toastmasters and were able to change your life through Toastmasters, how can you do anything but say, that is the greatest thing ever? I'm so happy Toastmasters exists.
Exactly.
What a brilliant thing. Dude, you're an inspiration. I got a couple final questions for you, but you're an inspiration. Who knew? Who knew I'd have a superhero on today? Roy, you've talked a little bit about mentoring, and that's one of the things I talk about. You talked a little bit about coaching. That's one of the things I talk about. When I'm in front of my audiences, I'm talking about social and emotional support, which means encouragement and acknowledgement and building people up. And I'm wondering if I say, who was that person, or who were the people who looked at you at some crucial time in your life and said, hey, I think you got something special going? Do you have someone who comes to mind, someone who made you feel as though you could do this, whatever this is?
Definitely my mother. Like, my mother had my back all through my life, and even when I was coming last in the class, she knew, she could see that I was trying, that I was doing everything, and always, no matter what, and even advising me, don't hang around with this guy, because, like, I mean, the people that she told me don't hang around with, I mean, I was fighting her and pushing against her. One died of drugs, another was, in prison, another's an alcoholic. All people shit. Don't be with them. Don't be with them. In business, I've had loads of businesses, and she just has an intuition. Like, she said, I love that guy. He's a good guy. Never had a contract with him, and we're still doing business together. Other guys, don't trust him. I said, I know him 5 years. No, don't trust him. Every person that she said that she doesn't trust have shafted me and cost me money by actually being, fraudulent, and she just copped it. So she always has my back. I'm constantly in contact with her, and she's so positive, and no matter who in life, she's my number one.
Oh, is your mom still with us?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I phone her most days, and I ring and put my son on, and she's like, she'd be doing Snapchat with my son and just all funny things, and just a fantastic sense of humor. So, yeah.
It's funny because when you said that's a great, I love this. When you said it was my mom, I thought you were going to go one way, but one of the things she was for you is like this litmus test. If this person or people or business doesn't pass my mom, that's a red flag.
Yeah. Exactly.
Aw, well done, Mom. Roy's mom. What's your mom's name?
Rita.
Well done, Rita. Well, we're almost at that place, everybody. I ask every guest the same question every time. And it started deep in the pandemic when things were so grim, but we're holding on to it because it's been really fun. So here it comes for Roy. We have Roy Coughlan, serial entrepreneur, podcast host of, I think, 120 podcasts. Is that right? 120? 130? 6. I think it's 6, right?
It's 5.
5. Feels like 120.
Exactly.
Unbelievably interesting dude who was a shy introvert, but now is a master of the universe. My friend, what gives you hope?
When I went to that event, going back, it was What's Your Quest, and mine was to expose corruption and fraud. And I created then, it was the 4th or the 3rd podcast, it was called The Awakening, where I'm exposing fraud and corruption. And I'm getting to meet amazing people that are fighting what's going on. Because a lot of people, they see all the corruption going on in the world and they throw in the towel, they go, there's no hope. There is. There's so many good people out there. There's amazing things happening. But because the media is manipulated and everything is on negativity, that's all you see. But the reality is that if you open your eyes and you surround yourself with the right people and you turn off the television, you will have hope as well.
Mic drop. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? So you're saying we just need to change our focus and quit looking at the negativity, and there are a lot of people working to solve problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do we learn more about you?
RoyCoughlan.com is where you find most of the stuff. You find my podcasts and my coaching for podcasting and other stuff that I'm doing.
And if you're an American and you don't know how to spell Coughlan, teach us how to spell your last name.
Coughlan.
Of course it is. Dude, I'm so grateful. Thank you for joining us. I'm so inspired. You've taken something really hard and made it look easy, and I'm so grateful for your time.
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed our conversation, Brian.
Hold on with me, Roy. Everybody, have a great day. Be nice. Speak up for others. Focus on the goodness other people are doing. Thanks, Roy.